Hello, this is a walkthrough through the Inside dashboard to give you a sense of what it's all about and what's included in there. So the first thing that I usually talk about is what should one be measuring? And my simple answer is measure what matters. Now, this is not a trite statement. Yes, this is actually the title of a book, but there are many layers below this simple statement. And how you need to think about it is determine what matters to you in the sense of if you are the current owner of a business, you probably find that you are pretty much locked into the center of everything. So as you grow your business and you want to move out of it into a high level, into green level and blue level, that also means that you need to step to the side a little bit. So think to yourself, if you are in that position, what would matter to you? What would you want to know more about, whether it's on track or not? And those are the things that you start thinking about how to measure them and what you need to put in place, the processes you need to start to put in place now to get that measurement. So the dashboard really is something that you grow into, and it helps to have a runway that helps you to get there. So when we speak about measuring, the usual things that we think about for a business is the revenue, the profit, the net value, and nowadays more so the impact side. And rightfully so, because we are in business because we would like to make money from it. What I'd like to suggest, though, is that that is not the entire success measurement of your business. It is only a part of it. It is the output of it. So if we take that concept and we move all those numbers to the side, and we say, well, what if we only consider that as the output? Then we open up more space for a wider way of thinking about measurement. Now, Ray Dalio, in his book called Principles, suggested that if you do not like the output that your business is giving you, you should go and have a look at the factory that's producing it. And that brought to me the idea, well, that's an interesting thought. What if we start adding a factory part into this equation as well? And then that opens up the question, well, if there's a factory, there must certainly be input. And Roger's book called Wink really inspired me in this particular aspect, because in there he mentioned that we all have the same 24 hours a day. And if you think about it in terms of drops of water, we all get 24 drops of water. Yet what we produce, what we create, the garden that we're growing actually looks very different from person to person. Yet we start with the same number of hours. So it comes down to how you actually use those hours to determine the output you're going to get. So putting all these things together and stringing them into a thought that says, well, maybe we should look at our business as a set of inputs that gets gathered in a bucket. So we equate the inputs with drops of water. So we channel all those drops in water, we gather them in a bucket, and yes, inevitably there will be some wastage there. But then what if we build an entire system, the structure, the processes to make use of those inputs? And that becomes the driving force for a production line that gives you the output that actually then gets put together as that is what you produce from your company. With that in mind, I really started digging, and I believe there are four inputs into a company. The first thing is time, and really this is something that I think a lot of us underestimate, specifically if you are at yellow level and going into green. Time really, truly is the most important thing for you as the business owner, because what you choose to spend your time on will be the result that you deliver. So time is really important in as a first input into a company. The second input is team. And obviously that is the team that helps you, but it's also the time that they spend that's going to determine what your output is. Third thing is capability. What are your skills? What are you capable with of? What's your innovation? And the fourth thing is capital. So I see those are the four most important things that serves as inputs into your factory. Now, as I mentioned before, inevitably there will be waste, and that is a very good reason to start measuring things so that you can reduce that waste. Now, if we take that one step further and say, okay, let's build the processes to make use of these inputs in the best possible way, there are 4 more things that we need to look at. The first thing is, what are your priorities? What do you need to focus on to make the best use of these inputs? Second thing is, you usually run a number of projects in your company. It could be internal, it could be external with clients, doesn't matter, but you need to also keep an eye on your projects, whether they are, what's the health of your project. Now, the next 2 are closely related. There's performance, but you also know that as with any conveyor belt and a production line, the widgets can fall off. So you need to be aware of what is falling off. So first is we look at performance, and the converse of that is what are the problems that are showing up. So those are the 4 things that we look at. What is happening inside the factory, and is the factory's processes, are they healthy and on track? That then leads us to the output side. Now, output can be distinguished into it's your quarterly outputs and your annual outputs. Now, quarterly outputs, we've got 4 of them. There is your quarterly objectives, there are your quarterly financials, there are your quarterly sales and your quarterly marketing. Now, everything up to this point leads to the last one, which is your annual output, which is, am I achieving my annual goals? So the entire production line, if you will, from the inputs through to the quarterly outputs, is there in support of your annual goals. If we talk about measuring something, I'd like to think of measurement as looking at a box. So it's not just one single metric that we look at. We really try to look at the nuances and what is not always obvious. And we do it by looking at the different angles of the same thing. So when we talk about quarterly sales, we will look at it from the point of view of the sales pipeline value. We look at it from the sales pipeline landscape, as well as the sales per product. So as you can see, each of these would give you a little puzzle piece to paint the entire picture for you, so you can really get a good sense of what's going on, and more importantly, why it's going on. Now, as you can imagine, if you think about all the stages within your production line, from input all the way to the output, you're going to need quite a bit of data to really track all those things. And you are right, there are a bunch of data in there. But fortunately, it doesn't look like this. It's not just a bunch of numbers. What we do is we take all these sources, which start with your normal, the normal suspects, which are your financials, so income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and so forth. And we add to it the planning documents, which would be your team charter, the promotion plan, and the personal compass. And then we bring in a whole bunch of other things, like, for example, the social media, your project management, your time management, and the sales pipeline. But the most important thing to realize here is that they are strung together. They are not separate. And I think that's mostly the challenge for a lot of people, is that a lot of these numbers seem to be separate units, instead of it's all part of the same golden thread which tells the story of your business. Now, the dashboard has been set up and built based on this concept. So if you take the factory concept and you reduce it into a stylized version, this is what we did. So because we're talking about input as drops, it is blue, it's water, so it gets denoted by a blue block. So the inside, we get our factory, so there's movement there, so there's more color, there's the pink, and it's round. And then your outputs, you're getting more into a greenish blue there, which is your quarterly output, and then your annual output is your bright green there, which tells you, okay, this is what I'm actually trying to achieve throughout the year. Now, if you keep that concept in mind, this is what the actual dashboard looks like. So as you can see, it's exactly the same concept, but it's just shown in a different way. So first column on the left, you get your 4 inputs: time, team, capacity, and capital. Factory, priorities, projects, performance, and problems. Quarterly output, you get your objectives, the financials, the sales, and the marketing, which then everything links up to your annual goals. If you take this dashboard and you kind of flip it on the side, what you'll notice is it isn't just the dashboard as the front end. It's actually linked to a number of layers that gives you all the detail and the depth of how you got to that front part of it. So if we take just one section and we focus on, for example, quarterly sales, what you'll find is if you click that grid, that opens up 3 views for you. If you click on that, it's going to give you your graphs and more information about composition. If you click that part, it gives you the actual pipeline landscape. So as you can see, everything is very compact, and it's almost as if it is packed into a little box. If you open up the lid, then out comes all the pieces that you might want to look at to give you more insight into your numbers. So at this point, I'm going to show you what the actual dashboard looks like within the real build. So let me just make sure that this is sharing. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and make sure that I reshare so that it is showing us the right thing. So here we are. So this is inside the actual dashboard. And as you can see, it's exactly the same as I've shown you before. So I'm going to just show you 2 of these and unpack them. Time is the first thing that is really interesting. And again, I'm drawing a lot on what Roger spoke about in his book, because in there, and you might have also heard him speak of it very often, is there are different kinds of time. You get your earning time, there is promotion time, there's investment time, and there's also wasted time. And I've added in a fifth one, which is process time. So when we start looking at time from the different aspects, and keep in mind that idea of the box, so we're kind of looking at top, side, bottom, and so forth. The first thing, as entrepreneurs, we usually spend way more hours than we would like to in our business. So this is an unpacking of what those hours look like. So you set yourself the target, for example, that every week I only want to work 40 hours a week. So you can start tracking to say, okay, but in January, actually, it wasn't too bad, 49, we're getting closer, but then in February, we went up again. If we look at last year, things did not go well. Looking at October, we almost went into 70 per week. And that is a red flag. That is not healthy. That's not good. It tells you that either your processes are not working, you are not delegating, your team is not skilled in what you need them to do. Something is wrong there. So if that is your target, anything above it should be a little bit of a red flag to see, no, this is not going well. This is not within my plan. So that's one little nugget for you to kind of chew on to see, okay, what's happening there. Then if we look at time from a different dimension, and as I mentioned to you, different kinds of time. So what I've done is I've actually created a little model that suggests that if you are at yellow level, this is the distribution of hours that might be optimal for you. If you're at a green level, it's different. If you're at a blue level, it's different because you have a team and your priorities change. So as you can see, there's also a difference here in promotion time. I'm sorry, in investment time, where we distinguish 3 different kinds of investment time. So don't worry too much about it now. Just realize that investment time are things like strategy, it's networking, it's sales, it's all the stuff that are really really high in value, but they don't necessarily have an immediate return for you. Promotion time is the time you spend on your promotion plan. Now, promotion plan, mostly you have, well, you should always have a yellow promotion plan for the cash flow. So promotion plan is directly linked to how much time you're going to spend on making sure you have your cash flow in place. Process time are just the things that need to be done. It's accounting, it's legal, it's even looking at your problem solving and so forth. And those are the things that to a degree you cannot escape, but over time, as you grow in your company, you want to reduce that time, because that's why you have a team in place. Earning time is the time you spend on delivering of the product. So somebody already paid you for it, and therefore you have to spend time delivering it. And then spend time, really, it's wasted time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are watching YouTube and laughing at the dancing cats. It's more a question of, are you perhaps spending pro bono time that is not linked to marketing, for example? So it really have to be clear in your mind, what are you wasting time on, and you log it as such. And here, according to my model, these are the distributions of it, and those distributions become your targets. So the interesting things happen when you put it all together and you start looking at, okay, this quarter, this distribution actually is looking pretty good, because investment time, that's the stuff that really is going to grow the business. This is my cash flow. Good thing is my process time is way down. Earning time is still a good chunk. But yeah, the distribution looks good. If you look at last year though, and you look at the earning time versus the promotion time, you can see that all the time went into delivering what we sold, and very time went into actually creating the leads and turning them into sales. So that's a red flag to say, okay, well, if that's all the time you're spending on your promotion plan, you're going to get into cash flow problems there. Same thing here. If you look at the beginning of the year, the process time was pretty big. And then we started reducing it, and it seems to be going up a little bit again. So those are just ideas for you to start looking at. As I grow from a yellow to a green to a blue, am I actually spending my time in the right places here? And this really gives you a great overview of it. And just to show you, if you go down here, here are the actual metrics, and you can look at your targets there, and everything is in here. But this is at the top is the visual side of it. So that's now the second side of time. And I am spending a little bit of time on time, because it's really interesting to start seeing what shows up if you start digging into time. Now, time also has a different aspect to it, which is not all time is has been created equally, in the sense of, if I do something in the next hour, it might have an effect within the next week and the next 2 weeks. On the other hand, there might be things that I spend the next hour that's only going to give me an effect 3 months from now, maybe even 6 months, maybe a year from now. And that distribution also needs to be kept in mind, because you want to have a good mix of everything in there. You cannot just spend time on the stuff that's going to give you an impact tomorrow, and next year this time you actually have nothing, because you didn't spend enough time planning for it and working on the long term as well. So if you use the analogy of the water, the length of the aqueducts actually differ based on the time that you spend it. So to give you an example of this is promotion time is going to give you an effect within the next week to the next 90 days. So it's a short-term thing. Sales, working on your dashboard, making sure your financials are in place, because that gives you the nimbleness to change, to get things in place, to make a difference within a very short period of time. As opposed to new products. A new product usually takes a while to get on its feet, gets tested, gets built, processes in place, and so forth. So the runway for that, for making money for you, is much longer. So that could be anywhere between 6 and 12 months. which means you don't want to spend your days just on that, because you're going to actually find that you're suffering on the short term. So again, with that, we've got some percentages in there that are your targets, and you put it in place. So if you start looking at the numbers here, short term is getting a good chunk of time here. Medium term, yeah, we're in good shape here. But then in February, things went out of whack again. So the short term didn't get enough time. The medium term got too much time. If you look at this, short term flows, look at that, very low, as opposed to long term. Yeah, got some good coverage there, but perhaps still a little bit high, and long term and medium term got everything, which kind of correlates back to too much time spent on delivery. And again, remember, this is the leader's time. And delivery is part of your medium term, because if you look at it from a marketing point of view, once you've delivered, you do a good job, you create a raving fan, it's part of your marketing strategy, but it's not going to happen immediately necessarily. Then the last thing that we look at here is also investment time. And as I mentioned before, there are three kinds of investment time, and this is what Roger really spoke about in his book Wink. He said it's not just what you do, it's also when you do it. So you need to follow a rhythm, and there is a time to sow, there's a time to nurture, and there is a time to reap. So if you look at what constitutes sowing, it's the stuff that it's the planting the seed. It's something that is new, that's fresh. You think about it. So it is the learning, it's a strategy. But also in this case, it is working on new products. Then the time to nurture is really the things that you've planted. Are you tending to them? Are you making sure that they're growing? And this is where your networking, your team stuff, and your partners come in. And your last thing, time to reap, is where you now harvest what you've actually been working on, which is the sales. Now, again, we have some percentages here. It's important to note that you should not be spending too much time reaping and not sowing, because you're going to run out of things to reap. So there needs to be a balance in all of it. And keep in mind that sowing takes time. So you need to also take enough time for that. Now, the interesting thing here is this could very, very closely relate to what is your energy on the Wealth Dynamics square. So this is actually my graph, so of the numbers that I've put in. And as you can see, as a steel profile, I'm very comfortable in the space of strategy, of planning, of learning, of analyzing. So I spend a lot of time there, but it doesn't come naturally to me to actually do the networking part, the outreach part, really just building my network around me, which just shows very clearly here. My nurturing is appalling in here, and then my reaping, I do a fair amount of it, but I kind of skip the middle part here. And as you can see here from the annual plan, the annual numbers, spend an inordinate amount of time sowing, a lot of it learning, a lot of it turning into strategies, but nurturing really not really getting a lot of intention there, and then reaping. So I kind of go from sowing to reaping without building the network for it. So that's an interesting thing to note. And again, it doesn't align naturally with me, but it also shows that, if I'm not going to do it, I need to get somebody in place who is going to do it, because that is an area that is lacking there. So that gives you all the different aspects of time. And I'm sure you'll agree that once you start paying attention to this, time isn't just something of you get up in the morning and you got your day at your desk. You start really being very intentional about what you spend your time on, because I think you kind of psychologically realize, well, this is going to show up in a graph. So I better be paying attention to what I'm doing with my time. So I'm going to leave time there. You go through the same thing with a team. You analyze their work with what they do. You also look at the time wasted for them and so forth. I'm going to skip across to the sales part and just do this one for you as well. As I mentioned before in my example, if you open it up, you get 3 different views of it. So the first thing is your sales pipeline value. And this is directly related to your your conversions. You might know that if you have somebody in a conversation that, you know, 1 out of 2 people that you speak to, you convert. That simply tells you, okay, so 50% is my conversion. So if I want to have roughly a revenue of 50,000 this quarter, I need to work on a sales pipeline that is worth 100,000. And that is your goal. You set it for yourself here where you say, okay, my goal is to ensure that my sales pipeline is always adds up to about 100,000, because that's going to give me the best chance to get to my 50,000. So if that is my target, then I'm going to look, okay, January was good. February we're dropping down. So we need to start working on getting my leads in, turning them into the community and turning that community into a prospect, because this sales pipeline value is directly related to your prospects. So that's the one aspect that we need to look at. Where do I get those numbers from? It actually comes from a sales pipeline. And the sales pipeline literally is a landscape where you set your targets, your sales targets that you have for the quarter, and that comes from your planning. It's also your annual plan from your budget. How many do I need to sell of each product to get to my numbers? And then you sketch out what are all the products that you have, and then you start putting in who are all the people that you are currently talking to, and they're color coded. So a light yellow is we're only talking that one, or it's an idea, they showed interest, that one we talked, that one is really red hot, it's going to go either green or it's going to go black where we don't win it. So you add up all the prospects that you have in a lane, and you add it up to your number there. And if you cross tabulate that, that's going to give you what is your total value for your sales pipeline. And this is a great tool to use on my Blaze days to see, okay, who do I need to talk to? As you can see, there are dates in there, and we make sure that that's a thing that drives my focus every week. And then the last thing we look at is, okay, my financial objectives per product. This is also a very interesting thing that you can analyze to see and really to find the story in there of what is the contribution of each product to my annual revenue or to my quarterly revenue. And you start seeing that certain products really stand out. Now you can also go and see, okay, this is just revenue. So let's say, for example, that one sliver was very time consuming. And I spend a lot of time on it. And I don't particularly enjoy it. You can see, okay, well, it only brings in so much money. Maybe it's time to reconsider that one and spend it on something that actually brings a larger portion in, that's maybe less time consuming. And of course, because it is time consuming, your profitability goes down. And that's another aspect that we'll look under the financials as well. So going back to the sales, that then gives you the whole aspect of let's look at the sales. Each of these gets unpacked in a similar way. Another thing, just lastly, is directly out of your team charter. You'll recall part of the team charter is when you think about your annual goals. And that is where we have these blocks that gives us an idea of where we want to go to. So they are also color coded. So the blazy ones, they're not red, they're more the pink, the warmish pink. The tempo is that mustardy green, mustardy orange. Dynamo is green, steel is more the black, and then water is the impact side. So just to give you an idea of the impact side, how you can measure this. So this board here is specifically aimed to keep you on track for your annual goals. Whereas if you go back here, your quarterly goals is more, so your factory part is, this is where you look at your milestones, for example. This is the health of your projects. Your performance is how much time is the leader spending on running the company instead of planning what needs to be happening in the company, and so forth and so forth. So the quarterly is more about, okay, these are my objectives, these are my numbers. but these are my annual goals. So these are the big goals that I need to achieve this year. And we frame the measurement for that in a different way. For example, if we look at, let's say your target for your revenue for this year is 150,000, you can see we put that in incrementally as that's my target line. Therefore, how far away from it am I in this quarter, which means I'm going to be in trouble there. It gives you the overall view for the year. And as you go through each of these blocks, it gives you more information. If I want to have so many partners in, it shows me what's my pipeline and so forth and so forth. And also on impact, if you put in there very specifically what kind of impact do I want to have. You can do it per month, per quarter, and then you can track it basically to see, well, what is happening? Am I on track for these things? So I'm going to leave this at this point. Obviously, there is a lot more to this. And one thing to keep in mind, this dashboard as it stands here is almost, if this is the ultimate that you want to grow into, you do not have to start at this level. You choose the level where you want to start off with. And we started off by saying, well, what is available right now? What are the metrics that you already have in place? And we start plugging it in, and over time you grow into this. So just to give you an idea of the size of this dashboard, it actually contains 152 metrics that we bring together in here. So as you can see, it's quite comprehensive, and it looks at things from a number of angles. So back to this, and just to make sure that Zoom is not playing tricks with the sharing, I'm going to stop and share again. And we are back at the presentation. Just to wrap up this presentation, I wanted to just share a few things. Why this dashboard? Sure, there are many dashboards out there. Some of them doing really cool things. But this dashboard, I believe, has a few things that makes it unique. So one very good reason for using this dashboard is it brings all your numbers together in one customized place. Now, this is something that I know a lot of people have trouble with. They do measure things, but it's in different places. Sure, you look at your financials. Okay, that's in one place. Then you maybe go and look at your social media. It's in another place. Then you might go and look at, okay, what are my sales? That's in another place. So at some point, you forget about some things, or it just gets too time consuming. This, however, brings it into one place. You only have to go into one platform to go and take a look at it. So that's one very good reason. The second good reason is not alone is it in one place, we actually do it for you. It's done for you and it's delivered. It comes with its own data ninja. So the person who's going to be working with your data comes with you. So you give us access. We have to work together, obviously, to really fully understand your numbers, but then we go and find it and we put it together for you. The third reason is that this is the opportunity for you to manage by color. And as you would notice, there is a little light on each of these grid blocks. And that denotes the status of that entire block, what's happening below it. Do you need to worry about it or not? If it's green, it says it's all good, no concerns. If it's going to orange, yeah, something's brewing. Probably need to start keeping an eye on that one. If it is red, okay, alert. This thing needs attention. So this gives you a high-level overview of where things are. Now, you might ask, why are there two buttons there? The one is the previous status. So on the left-hand side is the previous status, the previous month. And then the right-hand side is this month. So you always want to move from your red to your green. You always want to aim to get to your greens there. So it is management by color. Now, this is closely related to the fourth very good reason, which I think is actually the most important reason for having a dashboard, and why we've designed this particular dashboard in the way that it is it is almost set up as a model. Because what happens very often is, sure, we measure things, but perhaps what we're measuring isn't enabling us to get a long enough runway to fix things. So if you look at your financials at the end of the quarter, it's done. You can't do anything more about it. You can't change the fact the numbers are the numbers. What you rather want to do is you want to start looking at what are the metrics that is going to determine what those numbers are going to be. And you work on those metrics to ensure that you still have time to fix things before it gets too late. So to illustrate this, if, for example, that specific grid block shows a red color there, I can guarantee you very soon it's going to show up there, then it's going to show up there, and it's going to show up there. You do not want to get to the end of the year and find my, oh goodness, I didn't achieve my annual goals because I never actually figured out how to spend my time properly. And again, it's not about watching YouTube. It is about, have you spent enough time on the areas that needed your attention that is going to give you the results that you need in your annual goal. Um, so the color and the integration of it, as you can recall, I said all our numbers are integrated. That really is what I think makes this dashboard really an important management tool, because it gives you the opportunity to look around corners. It gives you a longer runway to fix things with. Fifth reason, what I've also found is that a lot of people find that if the numbers aren't in the same place, it doesn't tell a story. But if we bring it together, as you can see, you can weave it together and then the story just emerges from that. So numbers become part and parcel of your business because it is a reflection of the story that that your business is trying to tell you. And this dashboard allows you to read that story. Sorry, wrong direction there. Then the sixth very good reason, second last one, is this allows you to choose your level. It gives you the opportunity to only manage by looking at the high level overview. You can dig down or you can really go into the underlying detail. And that gives you the opportunity, if you have a team, where you as the leader might only look at the high level, but the person working on a specific aspect can go down into the underlying detail to really work on the detail. So it gives you many layers with which to play at. And if you are not really into numbers and you don't want to go into detail, you just stay at the top. And I think that's the important thing, specifically if we think about the four sides of the Wealth Dynamics square. Where do you like to play? So the steel side would definitely want to go into the underlying detail. The blaze side, maybe not so much. And you have the options in all of this. And then the last thing, a very good reason for this dashboard is we don't only give you the dashboard, we also prepare a monthly report called the CEO Insights. And we do that because we realize that you might want to have a meeting with your team to run them through the numbers. And you don't want to have to go through the entire dashboard. Sure, it's there, but you don't have to. You might want to, you might have a quarterly board meeting. So this would be part of your board pack. So we prepare that for you as well. So all of that together brings me back to what I said before. It's about measuring what matters. And by using a dashboard effectively, it helps you so you don't have to do guessing and hoping for the best. You can make informed decisions based on real numbers, which ultimately, most importantly, tells you what to do next. So the packages, I'll just show you quickly what we have on offer. So there are 3 packages. At the moment, you have Enterprise, Enterprise Plus, and Virtual COO. So what is included in each of these? Firstly, you get your custom dashboard, which comes with its own Data Ninja. So you get a dedicated person to work on your numbers and make sure that your dashboard is up to date. And then you get the CEO Insight Report, plus you get a session with me every month where we go through your numbers to really just highlight what's going on there, where you need to pay attention, and talk about the next steps. So the Enterprise Plus gives you exactly the same, but we've also added 25 hours per month of microservices. Now, why do we need that? That would be in cases where if you haven't got a full team on board at the moment and you just need somebody to help you put a landing page together, or you need somebody to figure out how to install a CRM system and start doing the campaigns in there. We subcontract and we find the right people for you. So that's just as you grow into, I need to get a bigger team, we help you with something that you're not locked into. We project manage this for you, and it's part of the deal that you get from us. And then the last one is the really fully developed one, which includes all those things on the side. And that is the virtual CEO service, which comes with the dashboard. Um, it includes everything from your promotion plan development to weekly calls, to process development, to collateral creation, to bring a team on board, team training. And you also get featured in our community program, which is called the directory. So the pricing for all of these, enterprise it's a 3-month engagement. All of these are 3-month engagements, so it's $300 a month for getting your dashboard done for you, and you simply have to look at it. You don't have to do any legwork to get it there. Next level up is 900, so that includes your 25 hours per month for your microservices, whatever you need there. And then the virtual COO is the $3,000 a month, where we bring the entire team, the entire internal planning for you. So that is my story, and thank you for listening. Looking forward to speaking soon.